Hello Oscar, Grandpa here and of course Moosey. So Moosey says, hello, hope you're well Oscar. Yep, is that right Moosey? We've been doing some good things, yep, we've been having fun, haven't we? Yep, so hope you're well Oscar and had a good week at school and hope Mummy and Daddy are well too and your little sisters as well and that you're all having fun today. And lots of love from Granny too and Auntie Anna. So we're going to read today from Mr Chatterbox and then Mr Daydream. So off we go. So Mr Chatterbox. Mr Chatterbox was one of those people who simply couldn't stop talking. He used to talk to anybody and everybody about anything and everything, going on and on and on. And on and on and on. And when he didn't have anybody else to talk to, he used to talk to himself. Look, there he is, talking to himself. That's silly, isn't it? Good morning, Mr Chatterbox, he used to say to himself. Good morning to you, he used to reply to himself. Nice day, isn't it? Yes, it is for the time of year. And so on, and so on, and so on. He lived in a box-shaped house in a village, and it was called Chatterbox Cottage. A great name. One morning the postman arrived with a letter for him. There's the postman arriving. He looks a bit glum, doesn't he? So what's going on? Morning, Mr Chatterbox, said the postman. Ah, good morning to you, postman, replied Mr Chatterbox. Although, as I was saying to myself only yesterday, or was it the day before, I forget, however, it's not quite so good a morning, in my opinion. But I might be wrong, although I'm not very often, as it was the other day, Monday I think it was, or perhaps it was Tuesday, but never mind, because it was quite a good morning, don't you agree? Yes, of course you do, because that's what you said to me in the first place. And he went on and on all morning, and the poor postman was late delivering all his letters. That afternoon, Mr Chatterbox went into the hat shop in the village. A shop selling hats, wow. Hello, Mr Bowler, he said to the man who owned the hat shop. He's called Mr Bowler, Oscar, because they used to have those round-topped hats that were called bowler hats, so the shopkeepers called them Mr Bowler. Hello, Mr Bowler, Mr Chatterbox said to the man who owned the hat shop. Do you think if it's possible that I could buy, if it's not too expensive, but I'm sure it won't be a new hat, because would you believe it? Yes, of course you would, but anyway, as I was saying, my present hat, the one on my head, as you can see, is getting how can I put it, a little too old. Because I've had it for, let me see now, it must be, let's think, 10 years. No, I tell a lie, it can't be that long. Or can it? Well, yes, it could be, but on the other hand. And he went on and on all afternoon and half the night, long after Mr Bowler should have shut up shop and gone home. Silly Mr Chatterbox. Eventually, when Mr Bowler managed to get a word in edgeways, or was it sideways, he promised to order a new hat for Mr Chatterbox. Then he pushed Mr Chatterbox out of his shop, still talking of course, and went home for his supper, which was cold of course because Mrs Bowler had cooked it for him hours ago. And while he ate, he thought, there we are, look, he's closed the blind on the shop and pushed Mr Chatterbox out. Gone home for his cold supper. That doesn't sound very nice, does it, Oscar? Exactly 1 week later, the new hat for Mr Chatterbox arrived in a smart red hat box. There it is. The postman delivered it to Mr Bowler's shop. At last, said Mr Bowler, heaving a sigh of relief, I think this hat is going to be the answer to the problem Mr Chatterbox talking so much. I wish it could be, said the postman, but how can it? Because, replied Mr Bowler, this hat is a magic hat. Oh, replied the postman, who didn't quite understand. Whoa, I'll have to wait and see. That same afternoon, Mr Bowler took the new hat round to Chatterbox Cottage. There we are. There's Mr Chatterbox receiving the new hat. "Oh, goody," said Mr. Chatterbox, seizing the hat box and opening it. "It's my new hat, my lovely new hat. I couldn't wait for it to arrive. In fact, I got up early this morning because, Aunt, I said I just knew, I don't know how, but I really knew, you know, that today would be the day. I don't know how I knew, but I knew, and it is, and here's my hat. And oh, isn't it beautiful? I can't wait to try it on. Oh, I do hope it suits me. Do you think it will? Yes, of course you do. And why don't you try it on?" said Mr. Bowler, grinning. So there's Mr. Chatterbox trying on his hat. Try it on? Yes, of course I must try it on. How silly of me to stand there chattering on when I haven't tried it on yet. Yes, I will, absolutely, definitely try it on straight away because, as I said, it's silly just to talk about trying it on and then not try it on, isn't it? And so he took the hat out of the hat box and put it on. It was let's look again. It was a beautiful hat. Very smart. "I say," he said, "I must say, yes, I really must, that this hat is, yes, it really is, to say the least, one of the better hats that I've ever seen in my life. And in my life, I must say, I have seen some hats, and furthermore..." But while he was talking, a funny thing was happening. The more words that came out of Mr. Chatterbox's mouth, the larger his hat became. The more Mr. Chatterbox talked, the more the hat grew and grew. Look, it's getting big there, Oscar. Mr. Chatterbox kept on talking and the hat kept on growing. "I can't see anything," he said. "One minute I was standing here looking at my new hat in the mirror, and now all of a sudden, without any warning, taking me all unawares, just like that, the hat grew down to his feet." And there it is. And Mr. Chatterbox stopped talking. It's grown so big it's gone right over him. And as soon as he stopped talking, the hat grew smaller and smaller until it was the same size as when he'd first tried it on. Mr. Bowler had gone when Mr. Chatterbox couldn't see him. And now he was walking back to his shop. "My special magic hat really works," he chuckled. There he is, Mr. Bowler, walking back to his shop. Look, in the background you can still see Mr. Chatterbox with the hat right down to his shoes. Oh my goodness. The following day, Mr. Chatterbox was out for a walk when he met the postman in the village. "Hello, postman," he said. "I say, do you like my new hat? Have you ever seen such a fine hat? I'm sure you have. What a hat!" And... But you know what was happening, don't you? There he is, talking to the postman. What is going to happen next, Oscar? Can you guess? Yeah, you're right. The hat grew and grew and grew the more Mr. Chatterbox talked. "Now I know what Mr. Bowler meant by a magic hat," chuckled the postman. And he went on his way, leaving poor Mr. Chatterbox speechless. He thought, thinking, not talking, thinking. There he is, walking on his way. Poor Mr. Chatterbox. And you know something? The hat taught Mr. Chatterbox his lesson. And these days he doesn't talk half as much as he used to, or even a quarter as much. And you know the reason for that, don't you? Yes, of course you do, don't you? But keep it under your hat. That's a lovely, lovely story. Anyway, on to Mr. Daydream. I hope you enjoyed that, Oscar. So, Mr. Daydream. Might not be able to finish it all today, but see what we can do. This is a story about Mr. Daydream. There he is. You know what he looks like, don't you? Because you've seen his picture on the front of this book. Oh no, look, that wasn't Mr. Daydream, that's Mr. Daydream. It's also a story about a little boy called Jack. Oh, I'm sorry, Oscar, that's Jack. Okay, and you don't know what he looks like, so here's a picture of him. Yep, we've seen him now. Look, there again is Jack. And there is Mr. Daydream. So, now Jack was a very good little boy, just like you, Oscar. He always ate up all his lunch. He always went to bed when he was told. He always said please and thank you. But Jack was a daydream. Whenever he was supposed to be thinking about something, he found himself thinking about something else. Daydreaming. There he is, ready for bed, but he's daydreaming. One day Jack was at school. He was sitting at his desk listening to the teacher talking about history. It was a very warm day and Jack was glad he was sitting at the back of the classroom next to the open window. There he is, sitting next to the open window, all of green fields. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Jack saw something outside the window on the grass in front of the school. Something blue. It was a small cloud-shaped figure. Jack couldn't believe his eyes. The figure looked at Jack, looking at him, smiled and waved. So, who is that, Oscar, do you think? Yep, you're right, Mr Daydream. I'm going off on an adventure, said Mr Daydream to Jack. Would you like to come with me? Oh, yes, please, replied Jack. Oh, very well then, said Mr Daydream, and putting 2 fingers in his mouth, he let out the loudest whistle Jack had ever heard in his whole life. Wow. A huge bird swooped down out of the sky and landed beside Jack and Mr Daydream. There it is. That is a big bird, isn't it? That's huge. Come on, said Mr Daydream to Jack, and climbed onto the bird's back. Jack climbed on too. It was a really enormous bird, and there was plenty of room for both of them. Hold on, said Mr Daydream. Jack held on tight. The huge bird flapped its wings, and suddenly they were up in the air. They flew faster and faster over the countryside. They flew over fields and farms and towns and hills and trees and valleys until they were far away from Jack's school. It was very exciting. Wow. Mr Daydream turned to Jack. How would you like to go to Africa? He shouted. Would you like to go to Africa, Oscar? That'd be great fun, wouldn't it? Go and see all the lions and the tigers and the elephants. Wow. They were travelling so fast now, Jack just nodded his head and held on even tighter. And they flew and flew across the sea. Suddenly it seemed in no time at all, there below them was Africa. The bird landed in a jungle clearing, and Jack and Mr Daydream climbed off the bird's back. It was very hot. There they are, look, in the jungle. And it's very hot and steamy. Come on, said Mr Daydream to Jack. Let's go and explore. So off they set, pushing their way through the jungle. Suddenly, in the middle of a clearing, they saw an elephant. Hello, Mr Daydream, trumpeted the elephant down its trunk. Would you like a lift? Yes, please, replied Mr Daydream, and the elephant reached out his trunk, picked him up, and then put him on his back. Look, there's Jack being picked up by the elephant. Then he reached out his trunk again, picked up Jack and put him on his back. It was very high. The elephant carried them through the jungle until they came to a river. Then he set them down on the ground, said goodbye and went off into the jungle. How are we going to cross the river? Jack asked Mr Daydream. Perhaps I can be of assistance, wheezed a particularly oily voice, coming from the river. They looked, and there was a crocodile. Use my back as a bridge, suggested the crocodile. It was very helpful. Ooh, I don't know about that, do you, Oscar? Look, we've run out of time today, so we're going to be able to finish that one off and know what happens with the crocodile. Oh, what's going to happen next time? So it's lots of love from me, Grandpa, and from Granny, and from Auntie Anna, and from Moosey, and love to you all, and hope you're having a fun time, and big kisses from us. Bye for now. Bye.